What up, dudes? Robbie Rowe here. So a question that I want to tackle today is, how do you get consistent movement on your pitches? More specifically, I think the individual that I was talking with we were talking about the two-seam fastball dynamic and how sometimes when you throw a two-seamer, it's nasty and it does exactly what you want it, but then 3 more times you throw it and it doesn't do anything, and it's not, it's like a totally different pitch. So consistency, right? Consistency is the name of the game when we're talking about baseball, we're talking about pitching, we're talking about performance. Those who can be consistently good are those who are established as great within the game of baseball. Now, talking about the consistency of a pitch, this is going to vary per individual, but the thing that I would encourage you guys with is really identifying simple, very simplistic cues and kind of mental thoughts that you can always revert to when throwing a pitch. For me specifically, because I'm a pitcher, so I obviously struggle with this too, and it's funny because it's especially my I guess I would say majority of the time it's my changeup, but especially the two-seam, where I would throw one good one and then throw 9 like mediocre ones, and then another one that's a freaking devastating pitch, and you're just like, why can't I do that every time? Well, if it was that easy, everyone would probably do it, right? So for me, the biggest thing is about throwing it as much as I possibly can and taking those ones that were good, right? And not good as in a relative term, so not just like my perception of that pitch when I threw it was good because I saw movement when my partner caught it or something like that, right? So take it a next step and have a hitter stand in the box during your bullpen and say, hey, I'm going to throw 20 two-seamers, I'm going to throw 20 changeups. Like, if you can just verbalize to me exactly what your perception is every single pitch, that will give me a better understanding for exactly which pitch was good and which was not. And then those good ones, really be mindful of exactly what happened, right? And again, like a lot of pitching stuff, especially development, man, is trial and error. So that's how I am with like pitch grips. I'm 10 years professionally now, and I'm still like kind of tinkering around with this and that. Obviously, I have a foundation for each one of my pitches because I know exactly kind of what I need to think about to, make it consistent, make it work. But, for example, right now, I spent so much time on 4-seam fastball emphasis and getting vertical movement on it and playing around with like finger pressure and thumb placement and how close my fingers are together and all this and that I kind of lost sight on the 2-seam fastball, which has historically been a really good pitch for me. So just of recent, I've been trying to like tinker around with my 2-seam fastball. The grip that I originally kind of used just for some reason doesn't feel comfortable. And that's a whole nother dynamic, right? Is sometimes, that's a really good question. I'll probably do a whole segment on, is like, why do certain things just not feel comfortable sometimes? But anyways, yeah, like I've been just kind of tinkering around with the 2-seam a little bit and throwing it more in catch play and bullpens and whatnot. And yeah, sometimes I'll get really good movement and sometimes I won't. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just extreme mindfulness. And how about this? Comes down to extreme mindfulness without like overthinking it, right? That makes sense. But I mean, it holds true, right? Because like, if we can really simplify the mindset of throwing a pitch and trusting that pitch, then when we're in the game and we're getting assigned to throw that pitch, we don't have to go through a whole like, oh crap, I hope this pitch is good, and oh crap, I don't trust this pitch, and blah blah blah. And that's where your confidence levels just plummet, and then you're not convicted in it, and then boom, down. Another thing that I would encourage you with, I guess a 2-part encouragement here, is if you do have the ability to throw on like a Diamond Kinetics, Pitch Logic, or a Rapsodo, I can get you a discount on 2 of those things, Pitch Logic and Diamond Kinetics. I'll include the discount code in the description below. But if you have the ability to throw on those 2 things, there's certain things within your pitch metrics that you can do that will give the ball a better opportunity for you to do what it wants, right? So I'll probably write a whole article on specific pitch metrics, but for example, on the 2-seamer, we want to tilt the axis of the baseball as much as we can, kind of this way. So if I'm throwing a 4-seamer at about 1230 overhand, I'm going to try to tilt my wrist just a little bit. So when I throw this ball, it's coming at more of like a 130, try to get to 2, but it's really tough, especially if you're a guy with a high arm slot. But, you know, again, it's just giving the ball an opportunity to move the way you want it to move, given simple physics. But like I said, if you have the opportunity to throw on one of those pitch tracker balls, take advantage of it. And again, with the whole plan concept, is like have a plan when you're throwing with those balls, not just throwing with it and being like, oh, these numbers are cool. Like, have an understanding for what specific numbers you should be shooting for, and kind of the different things that you can do to get to those numbers that you're shooting for, right? But and then the next component to that is like just video a whole like bullpen session, and have a plan for that bullpen session of like, okay, I'm just going to throw 2 seamers and see what we get. All right, you're gonna verbal to the video saying, okay, on this 2-seamer I'm going to do this, on this 2-seamer I'm going to think this, on this 2-seamer I'm going to do this with my fingers, on this 2-seamer I'm going to do this with my thumb, on this 2-seamer I'm going to think about over pronating, on this 2-seamer I'm going to set my sights there. And like, I constantly have all of these different kind of, you know, terminologies or cues, and just be throwing them up against a wall, man, and seeing if they stick. Meaning, say like, all right, I'm going to do this and that, blah blah blah, and then throw it, and maybe it's a freaking banger. Be like, oh wow, that was a banger, dude, like whatever. And then you can go back later that night, and then you can really look at that footage and be like, okay, well, direct correlation here was every time that I thought about keeping my thumb on more of the side of the ball, I got the movement that I wanted. Boom, there you go. And I think the video and you know, that accountability is there's something to be said. It's huge, right? Even keeping like a journal of stuff, right? Like the littlest things. As I remember during a couple seasons of mine where I was younger, I didn't think keeping journals were all that important, but I would have a really good like throwing session. Like I was like thinking about this, and it was freaking exploding, blah blah blah, and I was like, I don't need to write that down, like I'll never forget it because it was so good. And then a week later I was like, what was I thinking about that day that I was throwing those banger sinkers, right? So that's another piece too, is like the video is great, you'll see direct, you know, visual for what's happening, and then keeping the journal on top of that too. So I know it's a lot of work, but man, it always comes back to how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to be successful? How bad do you want your pitches to be consistent? So great question. And if there was a simpler answer, I would let you know, because I still try to figure that out. But hopefully those little cues and those encouragements there will help you out in the long run. And as always, I'll link the contact me link. Well, I'll link the contact me button in the description below, along with all of the discounts that I mentioned on those pitch trackers. And yeah, we'll go from there. As always, stay locked in, boys. Keep working hard.